Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the new film from Quentin Tarantino, and it's only just come out in the UK, so that's why this video is late for you guys in America. And since it's been out in America for a few weeks now, I'm going to talk about spoilers in this video, so if you haven't seen the film yet, do not watch this video any further. Now, I was really excited for this film because of Quentin Tarantino, obviously, and overall, I thought the film was quite good. I just didn't love it as much as I was hoping to. I was really hoping to come out of this film and just be bouncing off the walls, really loving it. Not quite on that level, but there's still some really good elements to it. Now, I've seen a couple of people categorize this film as a hangout movie, a film that's not really driven by plot, it's really just you're hanging out with the characters for the whole thing. And that's pretty much what this film is. You're hanging out with Rick Dalton, you're hanging out with Cliff Booth, and occasionally you hang out with Sharon Tate as well, as they're going around and they're trying to do things in the Hollywood industry. And that works for the film, but also kind of hinders it a little bit at the same time, and I'll get more to the hinders in a little bit. But I really enjoyed spending time with these characters for the most part, Rick Dalton especially, watching him navigate Hollywood and trying to make a name for himself and try to prove to himself that he's a really good actor. It was really entertaining to watch, and in that aspect, this film was a really good love letter to that classic era of 1960s Hollywood filmmaking. Every time you see one of Rick Dalton's films, or when he's in a TV show, and it cuts to that aspect ratio and it has that film grain, it just really took me back to that era, and I felt like I was watching a new Western or a new TV show from the 1960s. That combined with the sets, the costumes, the cars, the visual aesthetic in general, it just made it, again, a really good love letter to that classic era. And if you dig that era, you're gonna dig that aspect of this film, I guarantee it. And going back to Rick Dalton for a second, the majority of his screen time in this film is him on this Western TV show, and it goes back to what I was just talking about with him trying to prove himself to himself and prove to himself that he's actually a really good actor and not a failure or a has-been. And there are a couple of really good scenes of him filming this show, one in particular where it's just like showing the characters or the actors as the characters doing the scenes, and halfway through he'll go, wait, line? What's the line? Like kind of saw in the trailer. I love that scene, but there's this one scene where he really nails the performance, and it's that scene from the first teaser trailer where the girl tells him that's the best acting I've ever seen in my life, and he kind of starts breaking down a little bit. Those are probably my favourite scenes of the film, to be honest, because it's that whole behind the scenes process, which is another aspect of this film that I really enjoyed, being behind the scenes on set of these big Hollywood productions and seeing the process. I get a big kick out of those kind of films. So this film's not just a good tribute to that classic era of 1960s Hollywood, it's a good tribute to just filmmaking in general. Where Once Upon a Time in Hollywood faltered for me was the runtime and some of the pacing. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes long, like a couple of other Tarantino films. And even though I didn't feel the runtime, I do think it could have benefited from being 15 to 20 minutes shorter, which is weird because the film debuted at Cannes a few months ago, and I heard that Tarantino actually added like 20 plus minutes of footage to the original cut, and I don't know why he did that. And there are some shots in this film or some little moments that feel deliberately dragged out. Like there are a couple of scenes where a character will leave a house, get in a car, reverse the car out the driveway, drive away, and it'll show like all the different shots of all the different stages of just getting into a car and driving downtown. And there's lots of shots of, you know, someone driving down the street showing all the Los Angeles storefronts and stuff like that. I noticed that in The Hateful Eight as well, where there are a few scenes where it was like 2+ minutes of establishing shots, and I was like, okay, you've established that it's the snowy mountains, the wilderness, the Wild West, just get on with the story, please. I felt like that a couple times, more towards the beginning of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I was just waiting for them to get on with the damn film. And even though the film not being necessarily plot driven didn't fully bother me, I do wish that there was a little bit more of a plot to it for me to actually get engaged with and for me to follow along. Because again, you're just following the characters doing things. And Sharon Tate in this film, played by Margot Robbie, she doesn't really do much. Like, she doesn't really do much at all. Trying to think back to what she actually does in the film, she goes to the cinema to watch one of her own films, she buys a book, she goes to a party, and that's it. So whenever the film cuts to her just doing pretty much nothing, you just wonder why that's in the film at all. And I get the feeling that Tarantino put Sharon Tate in this film as a character to simply have that connection to the Manson murders, and to have a real life person as a character in this film to kind of connect it to some kind of reality. Speaking of the Manson murders, let's talk about the finale of this film. Yeah, it was pretty wild. Some pretty entertaining stuff. It wasn't as insane as I heard it was, but I still quite enjoyed it. When Charles Manson's goons go to Rick Dalton's house and that big scuffle happens, it was kind of like Inglourious Basterds, where it flips the history on its head and now it's like an alternate history, because clearly that's not how the Manson murders actually went down, and Sharon Tate survives at the end of the film, so she lives on. And it was a really entertaining scene, watching Brad Pitt throw that dog can into that girl's face and it busting her face up, and then Rick Dalton just burning that girl alive with a flamethrower. Yeah, that was pretty satisfying to watch. Overall, I quite enjoyed Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Again, I didn't love the film as much as I was hoping to because of some of the pacing and the runtime, but it was very well directed, very well made, very well acted. Leonardo DiCaprio was amazing, Brad Pitt was really good, Margot Robbie for the brief time she was in it was good, and again, the film's a really good love letter to the 1960s era of Hollywood and a really good love letter to filmmaking in general, and it's a great hangout movie. I enjoyed spending time with these characters. If you like any of those things I just mentioned, you're going to have a good time with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well. I'm going to give Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a 4 out of 5. Thanks for watching as always, guys. What did you think of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and where does it rank compared to Tarantino's other films for you? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know down there, and if you want to see more of my stuff, click on one of these in a second, and I'll see you all next time.